Michael Bolton. He's ready.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and in the fantasy basketball playoffs, for some of us, it is the best of times. For others, it is the blurst of times. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Check out LockedOnDaily.com as well. Newsletters, free, 5 days, inbox, sign up, and double bang on this. It's audio, video, it's commenting. It's subscribing if for some reason you are not like doing it. I don't know. I'm assuming there's a lot of other things going on in your life and you're incredibly busy. That's why you haven't done it. But yeah, maybe let's make a little bit of time for that. Okay. Mailbag time. It is World Tattoo Day, or is in Australia, as we'd call it, tattoo. So, shash your tattoos. We answering questions? I think we might be. Let's see what questions we got. Tonu, this looks like an interesting one, and I don't know the answer to it because I haven't read it yet, but let's get into it anyway. Tonu says, what are your thoughts on streaming very quality one-game booms as opposed to quality games? Example, streaming Wiggins and Jalen Williams yesterday. Only one game production, but confidence it would probably be equal to 2 games of waiver wire guy. Yeah, that is an interesting way to look at it. And the problem with that is I like it, right? I agree. Like versus if I had the opportunity to stream in a Pig Williams yesterday versus, hey, let's see and hope what we get out of 2 games of Josh Green, right? I immediately do that. Right? There's no question about that. That idea of that boom game is 100% worth that. The problem is that when you have limited ads, and I am very much, and I've been on this boat for a bit, and I'm more adamant about it now, is that fantasy leagues shouldn't have move limits. There should not be move limits. I think it creates unfairness and imbalance in leagues, and I think there should be no move limits. That's the way I've been going with that. But when you do have move limits, and they're pretty rigid, in order to be able to try and figure that stuff out, because normally those single game booms occur because of something random happening that you don't know on Monday or even until the day before. So you may have planned out something, well, I've got to get this ad in here and I needed to add DaQuan Jeffries and get his 3 games in 4 nights, and then you added him and he got 1 good game on Tuesday and you go, well, now I don't have another ad and I'm going to do it to get a Pig Williams move on Wednesday, and then what the hell do I do for the rest of the week? That's where it does become harder. But as a general rule, if you can make the numbers work, and you can in a lot of cases, yes, that situation clearly is more beneficial than rolling a volume play on a spud. Put it that way. How do we assess Lauri Markkanen season and project for next season? Is he injured? No. Caught up in tanking? Yes. Regressed? Yes. So how do we view it? It's hard to know. Like, I am very much at this point in the moment. I know that there'll be people doing this, and there are other people, God bless them, like, they're fantastic for them to do this. I would never do it. Kingy's the king of this stuff, and Kingy's going to be back on the mailbag next week. Maybe we'll grill him about it. He loves doing, hey, it's May the 1st, let's do a mock draft for next year. And he knows, he won't even ask me. Because I'm like, no, Kingy, I'm not doing it. I refuse to do that. I need to sit down and actually look at stuff before I make it up. And he's already putting out tweets saying, these guys might be first-round players. All right, because it's hard for me to look at this stuff. I want to dig in and see what's happening right now versus a lot of forward projection on values. But as a general baseline for Lauri, I think he has regressed. I think that it's definitely tanking and the injuries. Everyone's injured. Every single player in the NBA has some sort of injury, right? Nobody is fully healthy. But I don't think that's the problem. The way that we assess the Jazz, and the way that I assess the Jazz this season heading into the year, there were 2 teams that were like, I'm not touching these teams. There was Portland and it was Utah. And that's what I'm talking about, top 50. Like, I was okay to take Simons at 90 and Scoot at 95 and never Jeremy Grant and Ayton at 70, whatever. I'm okay with that because if shenanigans happens, I'm not worried about losing my 8th pick or whatever. But when Markkanen was going around 3, I'm not touching these guys. They've shown for 2 consecutive years that they're just going to sit players consistently. Now, Portland didn't do that. but Utah did. But if they get Cooper Flagg in this draft, right, I think that it probably won't be quite Wemby, but it might be like a Wemby effect where he's that good that they can't be that sort of a little player. They can't be that sort of a team next season. And then there's the Flagg and Markkanen and combo. Although, I'll say this again, I think he's getting traded, so I don't know where he's going to play. And that's where it becomes hard to project him. But I'll say this about Markkanen. Don't worry about the lack of games played. 50% of this stuff is tanking stuff. I also do think he's regressed a little bit. What are the ethics of adding people when you're in the consolation bracket, not in the main playoffs money league? Yeah, actually, this is a really good question. We get a variation of this all the time, once a week. And I'll put it this way. If your league has a consolation bracket, then what players should be allowed to add people. I don't know if it's a money league. Okay, that's great. You got your money league there. Why do you have a consolation bracket is my point, or is my first question, because some people will have it and it helps determine draft order the next year, or you have it like if you finish last in the consolation bracket, you have to pay double your entry fee or whatever it is. All that stuff is fine. But if you're just having a consolation bracket just for the fun of it, no need for it. You don't need to do that. But if you have one, if there is a consolation bracket and there are games on and you have scheduled those games, then yeah, everyone should be allowed to pick up players. There's no reason to have a consolation bracket if those teams that are then competing in that consolation bracket, for whatever reason, can't make any moves. So the answer to your question is, what are the ethics? If you've got the bracket there, then yes, they have to make moves. Why wouldn't they? The question then goes back high level. Why do you have it? Why is the bracket there? And then you can make those decisions from there. David says, what's your ideal fantasy schedule for me in this league? This is my first week of playoffs. It's very late. Yeah, it's terrible. This is the Yahoo default week. It's stupid. I don't know why they don't change it. I have bashed and bartered, and bartered's not the right word, battered these guys to change their default settings. It's ridiculous that they have this first week. Honestly, I will do a study on this, and I've done one probably every 2 years about the impact and what happens in these weeks and where our ideal week is. And I know on the surface at the moment, it looks like, hey, maybe we need to push our playoffs back or 1 week earlier. And that might be true. I don't know. But I also think there's a pretty strong correlation versus like, look at the strength of this draft class versus the strength of last year's draft class and how hard teams are going to be going at it and things like that. But yeah, starting now is insane. There is literally no way around that. That is ridiculous. That means your entire playoffs are encapsulated by the Colby Joneses of the world, which I don't like. There is somewhat of a skill in being able to attack the wire and being up to date on news, and that's why I'm not going to be one of those people who's like, well, I'm 18-1 and I lost and because I'm crying about losing a player, because there's skill in still finding that guy. But yeah, starting playoffs now, insane. Parker Finley, has Grimes brought himself a bigger role next year with his play recently? Also, are you higher on Sarr or Ware for dynasty purposes? The dynasty thing I'll talk about in a sec, Parker, as Grimes brought himself a bigger role. It is going to be difficult, right? Because you're going to have Maxey, you're going to have McCain, you're going to have Embiid, you're going to have George, right? There's those four players. And I would say Grimes has been very good. I'd say he's, you know me, you know that I think he's a better player than Kelly Oubre. Is he big enough to play that 3 role? Probably not, though. That's part of the problem. Has he brought himself a bigger role? I would say undoubtedly yes. Because people, I don't think, even me, one of the biggest Grimes fans out there, not for the music side of it, but more for the basketball side of it, that I didn't know that he had this in him. There are certain players who can elevate, and there are certain ones who can't. And he can, even though the situation's weird. But where is he a better backcourt partner than McCain is for Maxey? Yeah. Has he shown way more in the NBA than McCain has? Yes. So, the answer to the question is yes. For dynasty purposes, I haven't done any re-ranks of my dynasty rookies, but I was very clearly Sarr at the top. He was number 1 for me in dynasty rookie rankings. I don't think that's changed. I would move Ware up. I don't know where I had him, maybe like 7, 8, I don't know, around there. I would probably move Ware up to top 4, top 3 maybe, but I haven't actually redone it. That's an off-season task. But yeah, Sarr is going to sit at number 1 without really any question there. This is a question that I just don't know, Yusuf. With the uncertainty in Washington, is it better to stream DaQuan Jeffries over Justin Champagny? Like, I don't know. And like I said on yesterday's show, right, the Wizards now 15 wins, the Jazz are 16. If the Wizards, and this is I know how this sounds, but if the Wizards slip up and win, they lose that spot again. So they have every incentive in the world now to not win another game. And if they don't win another game, they will not move out of that number 1 spot. And again, I will say this for the 1 millionth time, and it's okay, because people don't always hear this, but it is important to note, and it is a very misunderstood or misreported part of the NBA draft lottery. Because I know that there's going to be someone right now, I don't know that you're in the chat, but there's someone going, why does it matter, Josh? The top 3 teams all get the same percentage chance at number 1. True. That is 100% true. That is not the problem. The problem is, if you are in the 1 slot, you can get jumped over by 4 teams and you can fall to pick number 5. If you're in the 2 slot, you can fall to 6. If you're in the 3 slot, even though you've got the same chances at number 1, you can fall to 7. So it's not about managing the upside risk. It is if you're outside the top 3, you want to get into the top 3. It's about managing the downside risk. So you want to be 1, so you can you guarantee a top 5 pick. That's the difference. So I don't know what they're going to do with Champagny. I thought that we were in for a 30-minute a night ride with Champagny rest of season. We had Bilal go down. We have Kispert go down. Let's go. But now I just don't know. And Champagny's a very much better player than DaQuan Jeffries. But I have absolutely zero confidence, given the way that my brain would work if I was running the Wizards. I'd be like, okay, we're here now. We can't let this up. We can't move off of this spot. We have to stay here. I would be very, very, very cautious on what they do with Champagny. Is DaQuan the guy? I would likely hold Champagny over DaQuan, to be honest. But I'm not going to be feeling that good about it. Burak Shener, I hope I pronounced that correctly. He says, would you drop Naz Reid for Kai Jones? No, I wouldn't, but I would be adding Kai Jones somewhere. But the question always remains with these sort of discussions, Burak, is that if Naz Reid is your worst player, he very well could be, and you're debating whether you switch for Kai Jones, the answer is you just don't do either of them. You just get bulk in. You get 7 games out of that slot instead of 3 or 4 for Jones or 3 or 4 for Reid. That is the answer to the question in the fantasy playoffs with any of these guys. If this is your worst player and you're debating to switch your worst player for another worst player, then the answer is, yeah, they're fine on the days they play and you just move off other guys. Because if that sort of level of player will pop up all the time. That's the answer to that as an ongoing discussion. Get more questions in. We'll be back to talk about them in a sec. Today's episode, though, it is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts that are ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. IT and AI, it's like both basketball nicknames. Let's go. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. You can find that right talent to help you with a marketing campaign and do it. It's posting a job is free and simple, and you can get multiple candidates within a day. You might even be looking for someone who's a long-term partner on things that you are doing. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That is UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. March Madness is here. I believe it started today, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. All new customers at FanDuel get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That is $200 extra to use on buzzer beaters and Cinderella stories and people cutting down the nets and who's going to be my ACC team of the day, or who's going to upset an SEC team, or who's going to be the new Florida Gulf Coast, whatever. You can bet all that stuff. Just make sure you win that first $5 so you can get those $200 in bonus bets. And when you get a win, your payouts are almost instantaneous. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. Okay. Galahad, you have been an absolute legend on this show all season and supporting us. There's no questions. Just want to say thanks for your infinite wisdom. Honestly, if I did have wisdom, it's not infinite. There's a clear limit on it, but I do appreciate you and all of your support you've had all season. And this is a message out to Galahad, all the regulars who are in here. And when I see a regular on the chat, I will call you guys out and say hi. But I know that some people's seasons are going to start to end right now. And I'm in I think I've got 2 roto leagues and 1 head-to-head league still going, and the head-to-head I'm in the final at the moment, and we'll see whether we win that, and then my season runs out. And don't worry, I do shows all the way through. My point here in all of this is that I do a lot of stuff all through the offseason, and I know you might not be necessarily thinking fantasy basketball in the offseason, but hopefully I can make it interesting, enjoyable, and entertaining as we look back on the season, the hits, the misses, the busts, previews, rookie stuff, dynasty content, NBA draft, NBA free agency, team reviews, a whole bunch of stuff. I'm going to throw another few fun shows in there as well. They're all going to be fun, but there's some other interesting things which I think helps build your knowledge base, helps build information and strategies all the way through. And I think, if we do it like 40 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, it's just a fun little show that you can watch. So stick around. Don't unsubscribe. Don't disappear. We're still going to have a lot of shows all through the off-season. They're going to be coming all the time. Thank you. Where was the last time you had a gleeful belly laugh on a show? Where can I find it? I have no idea, my guy Jeffrey, because you know why it's hard for me to do that? Because I'm talking to myself. I'm not going to say a joke and then start oh, because I said the joke. I think there will be those. There will be the occasional one of those. There's not many of them because, again, I'm talking to myself for 95% of the time here. How should you use your ads during finals week? Crew, I would direct your attention to my week preview shows that I do. We set out and show a full plan of how to use those ads. What you want to do is maximize games played. Simple as that. Maximize games played. But we talk about that once a week on those shows. What is the deal with Maxi? I assume, given the way you've spelt that, you don't mean Muxie Kleber. I assume you mean Tyrese Maxey, who's spelled differently, old Tangles. Honestly, this is the hard part of this season, is that there is the annoying faction of the NBA fans who are like, you got to play the guys. The fans want the money. That's their experience. And I'm not downplaying the fans wanting to see them. But this obfuscation for a team that is bad, the Sixers, and wants to keep their pick. And I'm going to tell you, most Sixers fans are going to be like, yeah, why would we bother with him playing for the last 10 games? Let's lose and get a draft pick and then come back next season. And what I find, it's people who are not fans of a team who then complain on behalf of the fans of those teams and go, well, what about the fans paying the money? Whereas I think most of those fans go, yeah, look, let's just see Grimes cook. Let's see what happens, right? But then the NBA gets all their dicks in a twist about it, and then teams have to lie about these things and not say anything. So what happens every year where we have guys that are out and you get no information on it for 4 weeks, we all sit there and go, he's not coming back. And every injury report suggests he's not coming back. But we don't know that. I've got no idea. And occasionally you'll get the rogue one. Like even if Anthony Davis comes back, we go, oh, that doesn't make sense. But it might happen. But what's the deal? I would say again, with 90% confidence, if you drop Tyrese Maxey, you'll be okay. You'll be fine. He won't come back. But there is a random chance that he will. Do you think Scoot Henderson still has a pathway going forward? It's basically looks like he's cooked. Portland looks to be trying to get into the play-in. So I've started reading that question. I read it a little bit differently. As I realized I don't have the questions up on the screen. My bad, guys. I'll put it up now. I read that question a little bit differently. I thought you were meaning in the future for his career. And I was like, no, I think he's played actually pretty well this season. It's frustrating the way they use him in Portland. And I think if he was given an opportunity, say, for example, that Scoot Henderson was playing in the role that Steph Castle's playing in San Antonio, he would look awesome. And his numbers would be great, but he's not. He has played as a bench player behind these underachieving veterans in Portland for 2 years. And it makes him look worse than he is. I think he's taken big steps forward. But you're asking about, his last couple of games have been bad, obviously. But you're asking now, Portland looks to be trying to get in the play-in. They might get in the play-in. Is he cooked this season, Scoot? Yeah. There's no way that I would be bothering holding Scoot Henderson at this point. He will have some good games and some bad games, but the way that they are structuring their teams and their lineups and their rotation, there's no path for him to do this on a consistent enough basis where you've got to consider holding him. Okay. Can I explain how a good fantasy player is not always a good in real life player and vice versa? Moo, that's a really good question. And it's a question that we get asked, or mainly we get asked the question, who is good in real life and who isn't? But your question is, I think, better because we're talking about why do I say that? Because think about the way an NBA game works, right? Compare it to, I'll use the NFL as an example. If you're a running back in the NFL, right, you get handed the ball, and if you're good, you can evade a tackler, hit a gap, outrun guys with speed, average 4.5 yards a carry. If you, let's say that, you can average 5, whatever. You're good. You can get 100 yards. You can get a couple of touchdowns. You're a good player. You're better than your individual defender or the defense, and they focus on you, right? The offense focuses on you, and you can do that. If you're a bad running back, you don't make that first guy miss. You don't have the speed. You get stuffed behind the line of scrimmage. You have 11 carries for 24 yards and no touchdowns because you're bad. There is no ability in the NFL in that sort of a scenario, right, to guarantee that there's just going to be those stats put up. Teams might have 250 rushing yards. Teams might have 20. Teams might throw for 500. Teams might throw for 120 with 4 interceptions. In the NBA, it's possession-based basketball. It's a possession-based sport. So basically, in every game, there are going to be a certain amount of stats that happen. There's going to be, I think it's normally like 45 to 50 rebounds per team. Assists are a little bit different, but you usually get a certain amount of assists. You get 45 or 50 field goal attempts per game. You will get 15 free throw attempts per game. You will get 8, 9 turnovers, whatever the number is, per game. It just happens. And who's on the court, those numbers will still happen. Now, the difference between a very good fantasy player and a good real-life player is they do those things, they do more of those things more consistently and more efficiently. But as you're seeing at the moment, you put somebody out there with no other guys around them and they just get given the ball, Colby Jones, you can put up numbers. But does that make them a good real-life player? And this is where my point on Steph Castle is that everything is funneling to him. I'm not saying he's going to be bad, but at the moment, they're just saying, Steph, we know that you're shooting poorly, you're doing nothing else, but we're giving you every shot attempt here, and let's see what happens. So he's going to come out and he's going to average 25 points a game over the last 2 months, and people are going to look at that and say, that's so good for fantasy points, he was my 70th best player, but was it actually real life good stuff? Probably not. And that's, again, where we get to that. So look, that was maybe a roundabout point with that, but a good fantasy player is someone that in a situation like Quentin Grimes, again, I love him. I think he's a really good player. He's putting up all of these numbers now, making him like a top 10 fantasy player. But it's because of other guys not being there. They lose to the Thunder's C team by 33 points as him as the number one player because he's not a good real-life player in that respect. He's not that level of player. But when you're out on the court, numbers will just come to you. There will just be certain stats that get accumulated. So it's everything in basketball. I think that's one of the interesting things about fantasy basketball. This is not just about talent evaluation. That's part of it. But it's about opportunity evaluation. And that can be a hard thing to do. That's why we love the 240 game. You might be good, but how do you get on the court? How do you play enough? Who plays enough? That's that part of it. So I think it's an interesting question. Mike says, why are you asking questions? This is a recording. Mike in Brazil, because it's live and I'm answering their questions live. What is happening? When will we get a nickname explanation show? Galahad, yeah. I don't know. We'll get one. We'll do one in the off season. I don't know when though. All right, we'll do one more question for now. We're not done, but we'll come back. Jay says, any DeAndre Ayton news? Not that I've seen. I believe that he's done, but there's just been no update on that, and I believe he's done. Will mailbag shows continue in the off season? Good question. We'll see. We might do some, and if there's no turnout on them, I don't want to be doing a mailbag show and there's 10 people in here. I don't think that'll be the case, but yeah, we wouldn't do it if that was the case. But yeah, maybe. I see this Nurkic question. Danger is, so we'll do that. I think Nurkic is an ad now. I need a center and I have Mark Williams. He could be a good handcuff as well. You do not want to handcuff people at this time of year. It's just absolutely useless. You're wasting a roster spot. Now, Mark Williams, in saying that, right, the Hornets play Thursday, Friday. Williams is going to sit one of those games. I don't know about Diabate's status. So if you want to add Nurkic for the Thursday, Friday, absolutely go for it. But you don't want to just sit on a guy and he plays 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 24, 10 minutes. That's useless. That's a waste. The time now is where Diabate might miss on Thursday. Williams might miss on Friday. Diabate might miss both of them. So then Nurkic does have that just short-term value. Yardship, should we lower our expectations for Keontae George going forward? He seems like another Jeremy Clarkson. The Top Gear guy. I know you mean Jordan. He doesn't have the passing eye. Yeah, I don't know. Like I was like, I hated him as a draft prospect. He came in, he looked really good, and all Jazz people were really talking him up. I was like, okay, let's see what happens. And he showed a few flashes to me, but still, shot selection's been not great. Passing's not great. You're right. I think that George and Collier is probably the backcourt together they want to see. It's frustrating they're not running it together much this season. But yeah, you should be lowering expectations on Keontae. I think he hasn't taken... It's been an up and down. It's hard to judge the Jazz guys, obviously, though, because of what they're doing. But yeah, I think you drop some of that future projection down a bit. Today's episode is also brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Daylight savings. I know that you guys started daylight savings now, and it's there, and maybe that lost hour of sleep, you need a way to get it back. Well, 5 Hour Energy, it's got you back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. You might be staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, you're squeezing in around a golf after work, or you're just trying to keep up with a busy day. 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. You can watch these tournament games and you've got to get up the next day for work. Man, what am I going to do? 5 Hour Energy, bang, knock it down. It's easy to get. It's on-the-go convenience. There are so many different flavors as well. In fact, 15 flavors, over 15 flavors of 5 Hour Energy, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. And you can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. So grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, let's get into the final batch of questions. Vin, sound bites are not coming back. Okay. Let's go through these. All right, Rich Paul. Welcome, Rich. Say hi to Adele for me. With the Wizards tanking, is Vukcevic worth holding? I'm thinking of dropping him for Jonas. I would say with the Wizards tanking, it means Vukcevic is worth adding. Honestly. Obviously, anything can happen, but in the 2 games where they've limited their players, Vukcevic has started to play. To me, at this point, that's an indicator that he will be part of that group. He provides just enough to keep a level of competence, but not good enough to make them win. Would you drop him for Jonas Valanciunas? I don't know. Valanciunas, I'm not super keen. I would say at the moment that his value is a little low because he can't defend. Look, he should be able to cook Vooch today, though, in that game. That's Vucevic, not Vukcevic, for the Bulls. So we should be able to cook him in that one. That is a tough one, though. Would I drop Vukcevic for Valanciunas? I probably would. Honestly, yeah, I think Valanciunas has got higher highs, but the general premise of the question about that the Wizards are tanking, so therefore Vukcevic has no value, it's literally the opposite in my mind at this point. Okay. What are the chances Emmanuel quickly plays both games left this week? 0. Look, I say that, though, without looking, but I know that today they play the Warriors, and then they have a run of some of the smelliest teams you've ever seen. Let me check that. Yeah, they play the Spurs, maybe. They play the Spurs Sunday, Wizards Monday. That's an interesting one, isn't it? So does he miss both those? Actually, you know what? Maybe there is a chance he plays Thursday, Sunday, and sits Monday. They're sitting guys on that back-to-back, though. There's no question. So, yeah, he is a tough one to hold, though, because I know he's had a lot of struggles. He's had a few little flashes of good play, but now it's just too inconsistent. So if you do want to drop him, I do get that. That would make sense to me. Orlando Robinson or Day'Ron Sharp for field goal percentage stream Thursday, Saturday. Robinson's field goals haven't been as strong as I would like. Give me Sharp. I don't feel good about that, though. How many minutes will a men play? Camden, I use this. I've seen you on these shows a lot. I use this as a question not to completely go at you, but more like how many minutes? I don't know. Like there are questions like this where I don't know, right? How many will he play? I would imagine he plays minimum 30, but will he play the 38? Again, we haven't really seen a fully intact team with a men elevating like this much. I would think 30 to 31, but honestly, I just don't know. I just don't know. Is there a reason I'm so irrationally low on Denny Avdia? He's been dominating the last month. He's a great player. No, he's not. No, he's not. I don't know what this point... Denny Avdia, he's a great player. Where was the greatness for 4 months? Yeah, he's had a very, very good run. He's looked very good. It has also happened when Jeremy Grant has been out and DeAndre Ayton has been out. Again, that's where context comes in. This guy was so bad, he was benched and playing 25 minutes a night for the first 3 months of the season. He is a very solid role player who has got number 3 option on a good team upside. I don't know why people are obsessed with this guy as being this awesome player. He is a good player. He was terrible for 3 months. He is playing very good now. His good run last season, when Kyle Kuzma was done and the Wizards sat a bunch of guys at the end of the year. Is he a player that just gets better at the second half of the season? Maybe. I'd like to see him do it on a team that's even close to 500, though. I'm not irrationally low on him. I think you might just be irrationally high on him. I think there is a lot of gradations of players. Is he a star? Absolutely not. Is he a good player? Yes. Is he a starter level player? For most teams, yes. But he's not a great player. He's had an unbelievably good run. He's playing so well at the moment. And he's taken big steps and improved. But we have to also, I think, try to be realistic about the way we assess guys. And maybe I just hate him for some reason. I don't. I just don't think he's as good as that because, again, I believe there's plenty of evidence to suggest that he's not, because this goes for all players. I try to look at everything versus, like, what did you do in the 2 weeks that you were good? What happened in the 20 where you were bad? And that's not him. He's not bad for 20. But there are plenty of players that are like that. All right, what else have we got? Questions. What's the time here? Yeah, we'll go for a couple more here. Daniel, we've talked about Champagne already. I just don't know, man. I don't know what they're going to do with Justin Champagne. I don't know how the minutes go. But like I said, they've got every incentive to just lose every game. Will he get 0 minutes, Justin Champagne? I would say probably not. I would say he plays a little bit. I think I've got him projected at like mid-20s in minutes. They play the Magic, then the Knicks, but then they've got Raptors and Sixers after that. So I think there's a chance his minutes bump for the next couple of games and then maybe pull back down. But that's a tougher one. Just getting Matt Carmody, another legend who's been on the show so many times. He hasn't been on the show, but he's been a part of the show. In all the chats, he says that Reeves and Luka are both out tonight. All right, that's the Lakers. We talked about this. The Lakers having this incredibly difficult period of the season, and there's no Luka, there's no Reeves, there's no Hachimura, there's no Finney-Smith, there's no Vanderbilt. They're just punting the game because health for them is more important. 6 games in 8 nights is too many, and they are preserving themselves, keeping fresh for the playoffs, which again makes a bunch of sense. Who do I think should be the rightfully biggest risers next year draft? Lonely Hoops, I don't know. This is what I talked about earlier. I don't know. Because you know what I do in this? When I provide all these numbers and all rankings, I don't do it based on vibes. I sit there and individually project every single player for the entirety of the season and then see how it comes out with our formula, right? So I don't know. And you're going to have 50 to 100 players changing teams. You're going to have 90 new players enter the NBA as well. And all that changes everything. So we couldn't have sat here last year, Lonely Hoops, and this is not against you. This is explaining the way that I approached the offseason and things like this. This is not a single person at this point last year could have gone, you know what, guys? Dyson Daniels. He's the one to watch for. No one could have done it. Impossible. He got traded to the Hawks, and I went, I think he's going to start here. I went, all right, we're in here. Let's grab him in the later rounds and see what happens. Because we saw how everything shook out. We saw where opportunity arose. We saw where those chances changed. And that's the key. 100 players will change teams. 90 new players will enter the system. And then we adjust where everyone goes. Because it's all a balance. It's all a balance. Like I said earlier, there's only a certain amount of rebounds and assists and shot attempts that can happen in a game. And you find yourself in the right spot where you get enough of a role, enough ball handling, enough minutes to make that impact. That's the difference, I think. Is it worth to get out ahead of a Jaden Hardy ad? This week is hard. 1 game, 4 nights. If you are in a do-or-die battle, that will lose you the week. If from a guy like Hardy, who you don't know what he's going to produce, you get 1 game in 4 nights, that will probably lose you the matchup. If you're talking moving forward, yeah, I think it's worth it. They're way more invested in him than Brandon Williams. Williams has got 5 games left. I think it's worth it if you're talking next week forward. Him and Kai Jones are going to be very interesting ads, but for this week, it doesn't really make sense. That's a tough thing, yeah. All right, we might do 2 more questions. Do I ever sleep? Yes, Triple B. This is not one of them. I actually just woke up. There you go. I sleep. The thing is, you guys don't notice me sleeping because I sleep when it's like, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out times. Like, I'm asleep basically from 6 a.m. Eastern time, and I wake up like in the afternoon Eastern time for you guys. So there's not much going on in NBA in those times. Will I be watching Otani play in person this upcoming season? No, not going to a Dodgers game this year. Going to some Padres games, but no Dodgers games this season. Would I prioritize Pippen over Goodwin or Jose if I'm looking for steals in 12-team weekly roto? That's a good question. Pippen's playing really well at the moment, but I feel like it's on a knife edge and it could change at any point. And yeah, I think I would go Jose. Just with the amount of injuries in New Orleans, and I don't know, is Bruce Brown a thing? I don't know. Maybe Bruce Brown is a thing. I think I would go Jose, but I really don't feel good about that call at all. Reveal your March Madness bracket. Okay, reveal coming up now. 3, 2, 1. I don't have one. You know how many games of college basketball I've watched so far this season? 0. Haven't done one. I'm very much obsessed with the NBA and doing this show and fantasy basketball that I haven't actually done anything regarding the bracket. No, I haven't. All right. Any news on Jalen Williams? Not that I'm aware of. And what are my thoughts on Cat's injury last night? Is there any update? I haven't seen an update. Omar, he hurt his hand. He went to the locker room. He came back. He played through it. He's had a thumb injury earlier in the season. I don't think it's going to be anything necessarily as a big problem, but we keep an eye on it. And this is the last one. Will DaQuan Jeffries start the next 3 games or the Hornets keep switching lineups? Joel, if you look at the Hornets lineups, they haven't been switching them. But I don't know what they're going to do. But they haven't been switching them. DaQuan Jeffries has started for about 2 weeks in a row now. So he is, unless, let me double check that. Unless I'm wrong, I believe he's just been in the lineup every game. Let me have a look at the last 9 games here, which is what I've got on this screen here. There was one game on the 8th of March he didn't play, but it was start, bench, start. Why did he come off the bench in that game? That was a game where LaMelo and Mark Williams were out, and they started Nick Smith and Damian Baugh in that game. Now, the odds would suggest that Jeffries will start. There you go. Any update on LaMelo Ball? Someone sneaks in with the last question. I do not believe so. He's still probable, so we expect that he is playing today. No reason to suggest not. So he and Mark Williams and Bridges are all expected to be in there and playing for the Charlotte Hornets today. It is World Tattoo Day, so celebrate that. Thanks for being a part of the Mailbag Show. We'll do a daily preview show for Friday later, and then a Thursday recap as well. Coming up, the best way to be a part of those, or make sure you're getting them, is to subscribe over here on audio, or on the audio side if you're listening after the fact, or if you're live on YouTube, to hit that subscribe button as well. And if you haven't subscribed, I want a real reason in the comments below. Please tell me. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.